Hey, ceramic students. For our next assignment, you guys are going to be making mini masks at home, either using homemade clay or store-bought clay. We'll get into the type of clay you use in a little bit, but first let's talk about masks. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but masks are kind of a big deal right now. You're being asked to wear masks all the time. Um, Medical workers are having difficulty getting the masks that they need. People are making their own masks. Masks are everywhere. And you might think that masks are not part of your everyday life, but they really are, even before this pandemic. But let's talk about masks and the pandemic first. Um, Wearing a mask around sick people is not something that is new. Here on the left, you can see this plague doctor mask from the 17th century during the bubonic plague. They didn't know it at the time. They would pack these beaks with various herbs and other materials to help prevent sickness. And they didn't know it at the time. They thought that packing this full of other things would be what would prevent people from getting sick. But in reality, just wearing a mask goes a long way in preventing transmission of illness. If you search for masks on Google, the first thing you're going to pop up with are DIY face mask tutorials for how to sew them, how to make them out of leggings, how to make them out of t-shirts, how to make them out of coffee filters. There's people are getting real creative about making their own masks. And of course, doctors and healthcare workers and people working around sick individuals are wearing masks constantly, so much so that it's causing them physical pain and discomfort having to wear these masks all day. So masks are everywhere.
Whatever. There are many reasons to wear a mask. Sometimes it is to protect us. Sometimes to protect others. Sometimes it's to hide our secret identity. In any case, wearing a mask changes us in some way. Our true self might be hidden, if only for a moment, and we can experiment with what it might be like to be someone or something other than who we are. Masks appear everywhere. From each corner of the globe, every culture has their own stylistic approach and uses for masks. By studying them carefully, we can begin to recognize where different masks come from. Sometimes masks are a symbol for something else. Masks can represent good or evil spirits. They can represent the forces of nature. Masks are used in ceremonies to celebrate the arrival of certain seasons. In some cultures, dancers who wear masks during religious rituals believe they are possessed by the spirit the mask represents. Dancers may wear the mask of an animal or tribal deity to convince Mother Nature to provide plenty of food or protection from the elements. In theater, mythical heroes and villains are often represented by masks. These characters, like the Monkey King in China or Nala and Damayanti in India, help to keep traditional stories alive and teach young people the values of a community. Masks can be funny or frightening. Some are beautifully crafted and colorfully painted. Others can be rough and made of found or natural materials. The intent of the mask is to change the person wearing the mask, if only temporarily. Some contemporary artists have been influenced by mask-making traditions. Calixte Dakpogan is an artist from Benin. He's a descendant of the royal blacksmiths of Porto-Novo. He uses discarded materials, combining them into clever sculptural forms. He also includes metal, a homage to the Vodun god of iron, Gu, who is the patron of blacksmiths and craftspeople in Benin. Another artist from Benin, Romiad Hassoumi, employs the plastic gasoline containers that are used for the illegal transportation of oil from neighboring Nigeria. Like his countryman Calixte, Romiad attaches thrown-away objects to these plastic containers to give them a personality that combines references to traditional masks from his country and our 21st century consumer culture. Czech artist Josef Mrva uses recycled cardboard to create masks. He wants people who wear them to experience a sensation of transformation. By using a common material and a purposefully rough technique, Josef creates a primitive feeling in his creations. Setting out to design a carpet, designer Bertian Pot discovered that the textiles created natural curves in which he began to see faces. He started to make masks using various yarns in 2010, and his experiments continue to evolve. His use of bright color and inventive shapes created a diverse collection of interesting creatures. These artworks show how artists are inspired by traditional objects. By adding their own creative vision, artists create something new and unique.
Okay, so here are some masks from all countries all around the world, historical periods. We've got everything from in Europe, the Venetian masquerade mask, as well as this mask from Austria. Okay, this is Krampus. This is their sort of a spirit around Christmas time that they use actually to frighten children. There's Day of the Dead masks, which you may be familiar with from your Spanish classes, or if you've ever seen these at Halloween time. In China, they wear masks to celebrate the Chinese New Year. African masks are very, very prevalent. African masks are very unique looking, and you've probably seen them before. They've inspired a lot of artists through the century. And then this is probably the most famous mask in all the world. This is, of course, King Tutankhamun's death mask that was found when his tomb was opened in Egypt. These were masks that were placed on mummies. So this is actually probably probably the most famous mask in all of the world. However, you see masks all the time. These are some iconic masks that we would call, modern masks. Everything from the horse mask that was common all over the internet a few years ago, the Lady in the Chewbacca mask that we've all laughed at. Hopefully, if you haven't seen this, you need to look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. Superhero masks, ski masks. This mask, you instantly get the sense that something's wrong when you see this mask. Even though ski masks are intended for skiers to keep their faces warm when it's cold outside, if you see someone in a ski mask, you're going to think a certain kind of thing right away. Masks that cover just the eyes, like the Lone Ranger here, are pretty common. Lots of superheroes also use these. If you've ever seen V for Vendetta, you should know the Guy Fawkes mask. Okay, Darth Vader, yet another very, very famous mask, probably another one of the most famous masks in the whole world. And then, of course, gas masks from World War I, World War II, all these different occasions where gas masks have been necessary. So even, you see masks all the time. They seem like the kind of thing that only comes out for Halloween or some kind of special occasion, but masks are around all the time, and you probably don't even realize how common they are. So your assignment this week is going to be to design a mask, okay? Your mask should be original, it should be creative, and it should be expressive. So when I say original, I do not want you to give me a hockey mask. I do not want you to give me your version of any of the masks I just showed you. Your mask should not be a copy of a mask that exists already. It could be inspired by a mask, like a superhero mask or a horror movie mask, something along those lines, but it should be your own original design. That goes along with being creative. Okay, your mask should not be boring. As I said last week when you guys were painting your sculptures, and I said the only wrong answer is a boring answer. That's going to be the case here as well. And your mask should be expressive. It should give your viewer a feeling. If you go back and look at some of the masks in the previous slides, Many of them had very strong expressions on their face, okay? This happy face on the Chinese New Year mask, the Krampus mask with this sneer on it, this Chewbacca mask. She looks so happy. Look at that wide open mouth, okay? Your mask should be expressive in some fashion. Faces have expressions. I don't want to see a dead-faced mask. You're going to make a miniature version of this mask using your homemade clay or store-bought clay. I'm going to give you links for different store-bought clays if you choose to purchase them through Amazon or maybe at Target. I think maybe Michael's is doing curbside pickup if you want to get clay from them. But links will be up on PowerSchool for that. Your mask is going to be mini, just like your tile from last week. About the size of the palm of your hand is fine. Larger is also fine, but you don't need to, you're not going to make a full-size wearable mask. Lastly, your mask has to be a full face mask, so it may not be a half mask. So it may not be a mask that covers only your eyes, and it may not be a mask that covers only the bottom half of your face. It needs to go all the way from the forehead to the chin. So I hope that's helpful. Make sure to submit your designs via Dropbox on PowerSchool, and I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with.